In December 2016, 34-year-old Daniel Weber, an experienced American mountain guide, disappeared while leading a solo expedition in the remote Himalayas of western Nepal. The search was called off after 3 weeks. 9 years later, in February 2025, 2 local hunters discovered a man kneeling in what appeared to be a prayer pose in a remote cave, nearly 20 miles from Weber's last known location. The man was alive, but severely malnourished, with a long beard and wearing tattered clothes. When approached, he didn't speak, but simply rocked back and forth. The hunters initially thought they'd encountered a local holy man. It wasn't until they brought him to the nearest village that anyone realized this was Daniel Weber, a man who had been presumed dead for 9 years. Medical staff who first treated him noted that he repeated only one phrase: "The mountain keeper let me go." But what happened during those 9 years, and who was responsible for his captivity, you will find out in this video. Daniel Weber was a certified mountain guide from Colorado, with over a decade of experience leading expeditions in challenging terrain. In November 2016, he traveled to Nepal for what was planned as a 4-week solo trek in the Dolpo region, a remote area in western Nepal. According to his permit application, Weber intended to explore several high passes and document rarely visited sacred sites. On December 2, 2016, at 7:14 a.m., security cameras at his guest house in Dunai recorded Weber leaving with his backpack. He purchased additional supplies at a local market at approximately 8:30 a.m. The shop owner later told investigators that Weber seemed focused and in good spirits. His last known communication was a satellite phone call to his sister in Denver at 6:42 p.m. that evening, informing her that he had reached his first campsite and all was well. When Weber failed to check in via satellite phone 3 days later as scheduled, his sister wasn't immediately concerned. The terrain was challenging, and communication blackouts weren't uncommon. But after a week of silence, on December 12th, she contacted the American Embassy in Kathmandu. The Nepali authorities were notified, and a search operation was initiated. A local guide, who had helped Weber plan his route, led a search team to his intended path. On December 14th, they located Weber's first campsite. The tent was still there, partially collapsed from recent snowfall. His cooking equipment was found inside, along with his journal. The final entry was dated December 3rd. Found an interesting cave formation about 2 miles north of camp, going to explore in the morning. The search team followed the direction indicated in Weber's journal. Approximately 1.8 miles north of the campsite, they discovered a hiking pole and what appeared to be tracks leading toward a rocky outcropping. Beyond that point, the trail disappeared on the hard rocky terrain. Search dogs lost the scent at this location. For the next 2 weeks, Nepali authorities, assisted by local guides and volunteers, conducted an extensive search operation. Helicopters scanned the area when weather permitted. Several caves were explored, but no further evidence was found. On December 30, 2016, with harsh winter conditions making continued efforts dangerous, the official search was suspended. The Nepali police report listed Weber as missing, presumed deceased due to exposure or accidental fall. Weber's family refused to accept this conclusion. His sister, Laura Weber, made multiple trips to Nepal over the following years, working with private investigators and offering rewards for information. These efforts yielded nothing concrete. A memorial service was held in Colorado in April 2017. Though without a body, his family maintained that he might still be alive somewhere. As the years passed, even Laura's hope dimmed. By 2020, the family had established a scholarship fund in Daniel's name for aspiring mountain guides, effectively accepting that he would not return. On February 17, 2025, 2 local hunters, Pemba Sherpa and Mingma Taming, were tracking wild goats in a remote area approximately 20 miles northeast of Weber's last known location. They sought shelter from unexpected snowfall in a cave system they occasionally used during hunting trips. Pemba later told authorities, We went deeper than usual because of the cold. That's when we saw him. A man kneeling like in prayer, facing the wall. We thought he was a sadhu, holy man at first. His clothes were torn, and his beard reached his chest. When we spoke, he did not respond, just rocked back and forth. When I touched his shoulder, his skin felt cold like the cave walls. The hunters brought the man to their village, where an elder recognized that this was not a local person. The man appeared severely malnourished and disoriented. He did not speak except to repeat one phrase in English: "The mountain keeper, let me go." The local health post contacted authorities in Dunai, who arranged transport to the regional hospital. It was there that a staff member who had participated in the original search recognized the man as Daniel Weber, despite his dramatically altered appearance. The hospital immediately notified Nepali authorities and the American embassy. Weber was transferred to Kathmandu for comprehensive medical treatment. The initial medical assessment documented severe malnutrition, vitamin D deficiency consistent with minimal sun exposure, and numerous partially healed injuries, including rope marks on his wrists and ankles. His weight was 97 pounds, down from his pre-disappearance weight of 175. The examining physician noted in her report, patient exhibits physical trauma consistent with long-term restraint and periodic beatings. Scars on wrists and ankles indicate he was bound for extended periods. Dental condition suggests prolonged malnutrition. Most concerning is the psychological state: minimal verbal response, avoidance of eye contact, and repetitive rocking motion. For the first week of his hospitalization, Weber remained largely non-responsive. He accepted food and basic care, but did not engage with medical staff or the embassy representatives. His sister arrived from Colorado on February 23rd. Upon seeing her, Weber showed the first emotional response since his rescue. He wept silently. 3 days later, in Laura's presence, he spoke his first coherent sentences. According to the transcript, "I got lost, found a cave to shelter, too deep, got trapped, survived on cave water and insects, found my way out when snow melted." This account initially seemed plausible. Survival specialists consulted by the investigating team confirmed that it was technically possible, though extremely unlikely, for someone to survive in such conditions. The medical team proceeded with treatment focused on physical rehabilitation and psychological support. Weber was reintroduced to normal foods gradually, and within 2 weeks he had gained 7 pounds. His sister arranged for his return to the United States, where he could continue treatment closer to family. However, Detective Rajesh Sharma of the Nepal Police Special Bureau was assigned to the case and found aspects of Weber's account troubling. The location where he was found is approximately 20 miles from his last known position, Sharma noted in his preliminary report. This distance, through extremely difficult terrain, would be challenging for an experienced mountaineer in good condition, let alone someone who was supposedly trapped and malnourished. Sharma also questioned how Weber could have survived 9 years on cave insects and water, particularly given the harsh winter conditions in the region. The investigation took a significant turn when the forensic analysis of Weber's remaining clothing was completed. Fibers foreign to the region were identified, including synthetic materials not consistent with his original equipment. More concerning were traces of a particular spice mixture used in cooking that was specific to a valley approximately 12 miles from where Weber was found. This suggested he had been in contact with local cuisine at some point during his disappearance. Detective Sharma interviewed Weber again, this time with a psychologist present. When confronted with the inconsistencies, Weber became agitated. The transcript notes, "Subject exhibits visible distress, increased heart rate and perspiration, resumes rocking motion." When shown photographs of the area where the spice mixture originated, Weber's reaction was noted as extreme fear response. Subject attempts to move away from the images. Repeats mountain keeper phrase multiple times. The investigation now focused on the mountain keeper reference. local authorities consulted with cultural experts who explained that in some remote villages, there were traditions of appointed keepers who maintained sacred sites in the mountains. Most were respected religious figures, but the experts noted that in extremely isolated areas, some of these positions had been corrupted over generations into something more controlling, even dangerous. As Weber's physical health improved, his psychological state remained fragile. He continued therapy sessions, but progress was slow. Dr. Maya Patel, the lead psychologist, noted, "Patient exhibits classic signs of long-term captivity and psychological manipulation. The fragmentary nature of his memories is consistent with trauma-induced dissociation, but also possibly with deliberately constructed false memories as a survival mechanism." 6 weeks into his recovery, a breakthrough occurred. During a therapy session, Weber was shown a map of the region. According to Dr. Patel's notes, patient became fixated on a particular valley marked on the map. When asked if he recognized it, he nodded. For approximately 17 minutes, he stared at the location without speaking. Then he said, "He will find me if I tell." This was the first indication that Weber's experience might have involved another person rather than simple survival after getting lost. Following this session, Detective Sharma arranged for increased security at the hospital. He also began investigating the valley that had triggered Weber's response. The area was known as Kandra Valley, sparsely populated with only 3 small settlements. None appeared on official maps, and the inhabitants had minimal contact with outside authorities. As the investigation progressed, Sharma's team discovered records of 3 other trekkers who had gone missing in the general region over the past 15 years. All had been solo hikers. All had disappeared without trace, and all cases had been classified as presumed accidents. None had been found. This pattern raised serious concerns about a potential serial predator operating in the area. Weber's psychological state continued to fluctuate. In some sessions, he remained almost catatonic. In others, he would provide small fragments of information before retreating into silence. Dr. Patel noted, "Patient's fear appears genuine and profound. He believes he remains in danger despite being in a secure facility. This suggests his captor exerted extraordinary psychological control and convinced him that escape was impossible or would result in severe consequences." 8 weeks after his rescue, Weber experienced a severe panic attack when a staff member entered his room wearing a particular pattern of traditional Nepali fabric. The incident was noted in the medical record. Patient reacted with extreme distress to the blue and gray woven pattern, curled into fetal position, breathing elevated, repeated, "He's here," multiple times. This reaction provided investigators with another potential link to Weber's captor. Detective Sharma took samples of the fabric pattern to Kandra Valley. In the second settlement he visited, multiple residents recognized the pattern as one traditionally woven by a reclusive family that lived further up the valley. The family was known locally as the Mountain People and rarely came to the main settlement except to trade for necessities. According to village records, they had lived in the area for at least 3 generations. While Sharma was conducting this field investigation, Weber had a significant breakthrough in therapy. During a session when his sister was present, he suddenly began speaking in a rush of fragmented sentences. The transcript records, "He found me in the cave. Said I trespassed. Sacred place. Not allowed. Punishment. Years of service to the mountain. Others before me. Some died. Praying position for hours. If you move, no food. Cold room under the house. Chained. Only the keeper can release you. He decides when you've served enough." This testimony completely changed the direction of the investigation. What had appeared to be a miraculous survival story now became a criminal investigation into kidnapping and false imprisonment. Weber's statement suggested that his captor had a religious or ideological motivation and that there had been other victims. The prayer pose in which he was found now took on a sinister meaning. It appeared to be a conditioned behavior rather than a spiritual choice. Armed with this new information, Detective Sharma obtained authorization for a more extensive operation. On April 12, 2025, a team of 12 officers approached the isolated homestead identified by villagers as belonging to the mountain people. The compound consisted of a main house and several outbuildings, all built into the hillside in a way that made them difficult to distinguish from the natural terrain from a distance. The police report states, upon approach, subject observed team and retreated into main structure. When called to surrender, subject did not respond. Officers breached the main entrance at 10:47 hours. Subject was apprehended in a back room attempting to destroy documents by burning. No resistance offered once contained. The subject was identified as Karma Rinchin, 62. The initial search of the property revealed disturbing evidence. In a chamber excavated beneath the main house, officers discovered 3 separate cells with restraint systems installed. One contained personal items that were later confirmed to belong to one of the previously missing trekkers. The police report describes cells measure approximately 2.3 meters, no windows. Ventilation provided by small air shaft, metal rings embedded in floor with chain attachments, evidence of long-term habitation including waste bucket, water container, and scratch marks on walls appearing to be rudimentary calendars. Perhaps most disturbing was a room that appeared to be a shrine. The walls were covered with photographs of mountains, interspersed with images of people kneeling in the prayer pose in which Weber had been found. Several journals were recovered, written in a mixture of Nepali, Tibetan, and English. Preliminary translation revealed a disturbing ideological system. The forensic psychologist's report summarizes, the writings describe a belief system in which the mountains are deities requiring human servants. The subject appears to have appointed himself as keeper, with the duty to collect servants for the mountains. The selection criteria focused on solo travelers who showed disrespect by entering certain areas without proper spiritual preparation. When interrogated, Rinchin was largely uncooperative. The interview transcript contains numerous periods of silence and non-responsive answers. He did confirm that he had released Weber because 9 years of service cleansed his trespass. When asked about the other missing trekkers, he stated only that some served temporarily, some served forever. Further search of the property revealed additional evidence connecting Rinchin to at least 5 missing persons cases over a period of 17 years. Human remains were discovered in a remote cave approximately 1 kilometer from the main compound. Forensic analysis is ongoing, but preliminary findings suggest they belong to at least 2 individuals. As the investigation continued, Weber's condition improved gradually. Working with Dr. Patel, he began to provide more coherent accounts of his captivity. According to session notes, patient describes being taken from the cave he was exploring by subject who claimed he had violated sacred space. Was initially kept bound in what he describes as a punishment room for approximately 2 months. Subsequently was forced to perform rituals, including maintaining the prayer pose for extended periods, sometimes 12-14 hours. Failure resulted in beatings or food deprivation. Over time, came to believe his captors' claims that this service was necessary atonement. Weber described how Rinchin would sometimes leave for days or even weeks at a time. During these absences, Weber would remain chained in the underground chamber with limited food and water. The psychological control was so complete that even during these periods, he did not attempt to escape. He convinced me the mountains would kill me if I tried to leave before my service was complete, Weber stated in his testimony. After a few years, I couldn't remember any other way to live. The question of why Rinchin had released Weber remained partially unanswered. Rinchin claimed it was because Weber's service was complete, but investigators suspected other factors might have been involved. Medical examination had revealed that Weber was suffering from a slowly progressing infection in his left leg. Without proper medical treatment, it likely would have become life-threatening within months. One theory is that Rinchen released Weber rather than deal with his deteriorating health. The international ramifications of the case grew as evidence emerged connecting Rinchen to disappearances of trekkers from multiple countries. Diplomatic representatives from Germany, Australia, and the United Kingdom joined the investigation as potential victims were identified. The Nepali government faced difficult questions about how such activities could have continued undetected for nearly 2 decades in a region popular with international tourists, despite its remoteness. In July 2025, Karma Rinchen was formally charged with multiple counts of kidnapping, false imprisonment, and murder. The legal proceedings are ongoing. The psychological evaluation determines subject exhibits features consistent with delusional disorder with grandiose and religious features. He maintains that his actions were necessary and justified to maintain balance between human world and mountain world. Despite this, he demonstrates awareness of legal boundaries and took deliberate steps to conceal his activities, suggesting he understood societal prohibition of his actions. As for Daniel Weber, his recovery continues, but remains incomplete. He returned to the United States in May 2025 and lives with his sister in Colorado. According to his most recent medical assessment, patient has regained appropriate weight and physical function, though some joint damage from prolonged kneeling is likely permanent. Psychologically, he continues to experience symptoms consistent with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. He reports intrusive thoughts, hypervigilance, and occasional dissociative episodes. Most notably, he experiences severe anxiety in enclosed spaces and has difficulty sleeping in complete darkness. Dr. Patel, who has continued to consult on Weber's case remotely, notes, the subject's prolonged captivity during a period when most adults are consolidating their identity and life direction has resulted in significant developmental disruption. At 43, he describes feeling frozen at 34, the age at which he was taken. Reintegration into society presents ongoing challenges. Weber has declined all media interviews. Through his legal representative, he has requested privacy as he continues his recovery. The statement released by his attorney notes only, Mr. Weber is grateful to those who never gave up searching for him and to the medical professionals who continue to assist with his recovery. He asks for understanding as he takes the time needed to rebuild his life. The investigation into Karma Rinchen's activities continues. Authorities are working to identify all potential victims and to understand how he operated undetected for so long. The remote location of his compound, the specific targeting of solo trekkers, and the psychological manipulation of survivors all contributed to his ability to avoid detection. The case has prompted Nepal's tourism ministry to implement new safety protocols for solo trekkers in remote regions, including more frequent check-ins and improved tracking systems. For the families of those still missing, Weber's return after 9 years has reignited hope that their loved ones might also be found alive. However, as the evidence from Rinchen's compound is processed, investigators caution that Weber's survival may have been the exception rather than the rule. The recovered journals suggest that many of Rinchen's victims did not survive their service to the mountains. The psychological impact on Weber remains profound. His therapist's notes indicate patient continues to experience episodes where he feels compelled to assume the prayer position, particularly when under stress. He reports that this behavior feels safer than other responses, demonstrating the deep conditioning created during his captivity. The medical file indicates that Weber still checks windows and doors multiple times before sleeping, a behavior that has not diminished with time. The case of Daniel Weber stands as one of the most extreme examples of survival and psychological manipulation in modern mountaineering history. His reappearance after 9 years challenges our understanding of human endurance and the profound impact of prolonged captivity. For Weber himself, the journey of recovery may prove as challenging as his years of captivity. The medical team overseeing his care estimates that the psychological effects of his experience will require years of treatment and may never fully resolve. According to the latest therapy session notes, when asked about his future plans, the patient states he cannot think beyond next week. Long-term planning creates significant anxiety. He reports that he sometimes still wakes, believing he is in the underground chamber and must check his ankles for chains. The report concludes, the subject has survived physically, but significant work remains to help him reclaim his life and sense of self. The file on Daniel Weber remains active with the FBI's Victim Services Division. His sister has established a small foundation to support research on reintegration therapy for long-term captives. Weber himself, according to those close to his case, spends most days in his sister's home, rarely venturing out except for medical appointments. The protocol states he is to be evaluated quarterly for the foreseeable future. When asked by his therapist if he ever plans to hike again, Weber reportedly stared at the window for several minutes before responding, "The mountains aren't finished with me yet." The medical record notes this statement as concerning for persistent traumatic ideation.